findings have revealed that high prevalence of sheer negligence of ethics and value in Nigeria's civil service, occasioned by lack of integrity among civil servants and complex nature of corruption, coupled with some extent cultural problems, require an overhaul to give room for total adherence to the ethics of the civil service in Nigeria. And now on politicals, our focus shall be on Nigeria's civil servants and the challenges of moral uprightness in the service. Chidi Ezeme, a former head of the civil service in Enugu State, will be joining us on Zoom to have this discussion. Also, good evening. Thanks for joining us, sir.
I believe that's Ngozimba.
It is said that there is corruption among civil servants. You have been the #1 civil servant at some point in Enugu State, and so I'd like to hear it firsthand from you. How was it in civil service while you were there?
I don't think it's really proper to start casting aspersions, blaming civil servants on the issue of corruption, because if we have just 1 out of 12, it's not enough to castigate the entire civil service, entire civil servants as being corrupt. You may have 1 or 2 bad eggs. It doesn't mean that all the civil servants are corrupt. In fact, strictly speaking, if I'm allowed to judge, considering what is happening in society today, in entire country, I can even say that the civil servants are saints instead of saying that they are corrupt. So that is the way I think, and I will rate the civil servants in terms of corruption in Nigeria.
In civil service, we understand that the take-home is usually nothing to write home about. Someone says it doesn't even take you to the bus stop, let alone taking you home. And that could open up the ways for an average civil servant in Nigeria to cut corners, to seek for ways and means to make ends meet. Don't you think so? Or are there other things that the civil servant can do to help him be sustained in this economic downturn?
Yeah, thank you so much. I think that the problem in this country is that we're not realists. We're not just being fair and considerate, because whether we like it or not, what's the smallest, or rather the least paid civil servant gets is nothing to write home about when you compare the price of the things that he needs to actually buy to earn a living. Realistically speaking, I think the lowest paid civil servant, or rather public servant, should have at least ₦1 million a month. If we're really serious in ensuring that they earn what I would call a fair wage pay. The least paid worker in this country should take a minimum of ₦1 million per month as we stand and as we speak today. Because we all go to the market and we know what price of items are. And if you are a civil servant and you go to the market, nobody says, okay, come here because you're a civil servant and they sell to you cheap. It doesn't happen. Or if you have accommodation, the landlord will say, okay, let me take small amount of money from you because we are a civil servant. It doesn't happen. So realistically speaking, if we need to actually remove the veil of corruption in the civil service, so to speak, we need to really motivate them and pay them reasonably very, very well. Like I said, a minimum of 1 million naira should be paid to the least paid worker in this country. That's my take on the issue. Thank you.
Even our current minimum wage, we are struggling to pay that. And so, in a situation whereby, the salary is not enough to sustain someone to build a family and, order to provide for the family as well, how can a merit-based promotion system encourage moral uprightness in the civil service?
Well, you know that it's not only money or finance that can actually motivate a person or a worker. Other things can be lined up. And I'm saying that apart from financial encouragement or remuneration, we have other motivational factors, like you mentioned, promotion is one of them. Two, also giving award to deserving workers who have excelled in their various areas. Thirdly, you must also decide to um, encourage them by ensuring that some of them have a good living place, accommodation, because it's also a factor. There's nothing bad in providing decent accommodation for civil servants, and also ensuring that they have a good transport system that will convey them to work. These are some of the things we can do to motivate the workers if we can't afford to give them money to assuage all these financial challenges that confront them on a daily basis.
Some of the corruption charges that the political uh, elites have been accused of, it appears like it's also replicated in the civil service. In fact, I remember one leader in the past saying that politicians are not as corrupt as civil servants. One is the issue of nepotism, where the leadership in civil service are biased in stuff like promotion, appointments, award of contracts, and the likes. Are you saying that these things are not in existence in the civil service?
Well, we know that the civil service as we have today, we have well-defined rules and regulations that guide the civil service. So most of those people that are charged with the responsibility of running the civil service, they are aware of these rules and regulations, and most often ensure that they abide by it. So anybody telling you that the politicians are not as corrupt as the civil servants are not telling you the truth, because you and I know that most of these politicians, they come and go, and within the short period of their romance or their stay in the public service. Those civil servants that has stayed up to over 30 years can amass the kind of wealth they amass within their short period of 4 years or 8 years stay in the office. So it's really a misnomer, or rather a mismatch, to start saying that the civil servants are more corrupt than the public servants. There's nothing like that. It doesn't happen.
This other issue about ghost workers phenomenon, a practice where um, payroll is inflated to accommodate non-existent workers. In Enugu State, for instance, where you held sway as a head of service,
Yes.
from time to time, the state government engage workers on verification, physical
Yes.
verification, and the likes. Is it
Yes.
not because of
Yes.
this kind of corruption we are talking about?
Well, They say that prevention is better than cure. I agree with you that governments engage from time to time on verification, or call it biometric capturing, so that the issue of ghost worker syndrome is entirely reduced, if not wiped away. Um, constant coming in and verify workers help to reduce the ghost worker syndrome. And that's why in any state civil service, like you said today, there is almost zero ghost. You almost have zero ghost workers in the civil service because of periodic verification. Ghost worker syndrome are entirely eliminated in the civil service.
Case of budgeting, from time to time we will hear about padding of the budget. There's a scenario I'm trying to recollect where an agency of the government was invited to the National Assembly to defend the budget they submitted. And it appeared like there were paddings. Now, these are not, this was not coming from the politicians. It came rightly from the civil service, agents of government. Does it not happen?
That is simply an estimate of government financial transactions. So if somebody, assuming a road is supposed to cost say 1 million naira, and along the line it gets increased to 1.2 million naira. At the point of the execution, if it's not up to 1.2 million naira, certainly 1.2 million naira will not be spent. So how does corruption come into it? So it's really some words that people use to confuse people. Is not in any way should not be seen as corruption, because at that point it cannot be implemented, and if money has not exchanged hands or having a corruptive tendency, it's at the point of implementation and money changes hands, and that's when you can say that somebody who has now be corrupt because he has taken money that does not rightly belong to him or her in the process of executing projects. And so that's the way I look at it.
Stories about clerks, for instance, who would have to sit on files, hide the files, or delay, submission of these files because their palms are yet to be greased. Also, are you saying that these people are not Nigerian civil servants?
Yes. Yes. What you are saying actually is correct. And that's why throughout my stay as head of service of Enugu State, we made sure that what I've said does not happen. We have a policy then which says that any file that stays beyond 24 hours must be reported to the next superior officer. So with that, files were actually not staying beyond the 24 hours like you rightly said, waiting for anybody to grease the span. Because if file stays with you beyond 24 hours, we will now know that you're actually looking for something, and we can't take it easily with you. We'll make sure that we'll apply the appropriate disciplinary action on you. So we have a policy that every file had to be treated and concluded within 24 hours on a particular table. Failure to comply will certainly receive the appropriate disciplinary action, except where you now report to the next superior officer. That's where you can be exonerated. So you can see that throughout my stay in the civil service, as head of service, we never had this delay in the movement of files, which I believe emulates.
How effective are institutions like the EFCC, the ICPC in promoting uprightness and in promoting moral uprightness in the civil service?
Yeah, I think it's really good that we have such institutions in place because in the civil service, the fear of EFCC and ICPC is the beginning of wisdom. And the issue of fraud, they ensure that you don't go into their nets, because if you do, God save me, will not be there. So I actually commend the existence of such structures in the system. So it's quite commendable.
Even
And if
when
possible,
it's
I
not
remember
a
when we were in
general,
university.
it's not general enough to quantify the entire civil service of corruption. But these things can be nipped in the bud. These things can be made not to happen to start with. What are some of the things you're recommending that be done in the civil service to mitigate, to quench moral degradation and lack of integrity in the civil service?
One is that we should continue to imbibe the culture of training the workers and don'ts. Training of the workers is one of the things that can be done to actually mitigate the occurrence of fraud and corruption. Certainly, it will reduce the possibility of fraud and corruption. Another thing I consider very, very important is that we should find a way of motivating these workers so that their eyes will be away from corruptive tendencies.
Let's end with this particular line of discussion. You have said training and retraining can help in
Yes.
making sure that moral uprightness is held in civil service. You've also talked about motivation salary structure, motivational salary structure, not peanuts given to civil servants at the end of every month can help. But there is also something in the recruitment exercise going on. You find out that favoritism is the order of the day. I've mentioned nepotism earlier on, where people bring in people of their fold, their friends, their relatives, to employ them into service. In fact, some slots are sold to the public to get them in. Does it not make all of this difficult to handle moral decadence in civil service? What can be done in that regard?
I agree with you. You see, the thing is very straightforward. Anybody that is eager to be a civil servant should not just be allowed to enter through what I will call the back door. There is a standard recruitment policy in the service, and that is that every position that has to be engaged has to be advertised in at least 3 national newspapers. So it needs to be transparent, it needs to be open, so that people who are qualified can, after seeing such advertised positions, now apply and be subjected to both written and oral interview. By so doing, the best candidate gets in, is recruited into the public service, But if you now recruit through the back door, so that's why you get people who are not qualified to be in the service. And what do you expect? If you get somebody who is not employed through the approved standard, you get anything goes. And that's why this corruption we're talking about, the person will go in and start looking for a way of enriching himself, because he knows that maybe he paid his way to enter, so he needs to make that money that he paid for when entering the service. So the best way is to ensure that before anybody is recruited into the civil service, it must be through open advertisements, so that people get to know about it and apply accordingly, and people get employed based on merit instead of people who are not qualified getting recruited into the civil service. So by so doing, we maintain the standard of the civil service. Thank you.
Also, before we let you go, people get into civil service and they're expected to retire at either a particular age or after serving for a particular number of years. And
Yes.
then at the end of it all, the gratuity is not paid and the pensions are either delayed or stopped at some point. And you find out that some of these civil servants will begin to make plans on how to retire. And some,
Yes.
though some will take the positive way, others will tend towards corruption.
Investigation, so that they get paid their gratuity. That's a very beautiful and welcome development. The reason is that those that are serving will look up to also retiring and get paid their gratuity. Otherwise, if you don't pay people gratuity when they retire, the tendency is that those that are currently serving will find a way of cutting corners to make sure that they don't suffer when they leave service. But when they are sure that when they leave service, the gratuity will be paid, they will be receiving their pension at the end of every month, there won't be any need to be cutting corners. So I urge governments to please ensure that as much as possible, let them continue to paying the retirees their pension and also the gratuities that the workers are entitled to, because gratuity is what we will refer to as golden handshake. When anybody from service is supposed to immediately, within the month of leaving the service, should be paid his gratuity. That's the way the thing was charted to be. And I don't know why some governments try to close their eyes to this particular responsibility expected of them to those that are retiring from service. So I urge government to please look into it and ensure that as soon as the workers are leaving the service, the person is being paid his gratuity, and from then onwards, his pension is paid monthly as expected until the person dies. Because the rule is that if one puts in 35 years or of age, whichever is earlier, one should actually throw in the towel. So at the point of his or her exiting the service, the gratuity should be paid immediately, and then he should continue to earn his pension as time goes on, monthly basis. So this is what I expect government to be doing. And I commend the governor of Enugu State for actually paying the pensioners on a monthly basis, and now working on payment of gratuities when they are verified. Thank you.
What does delayed promotion do, and how can it be handled so that people will be promoted as at when due?
Well, The thing is, it's actually behoves on government because all the people that are causing this problem, um, I believe, is usually on the part of government. Um, Government should actually ensure that they play their own part by insisting that when workers are due for promotion, they should be promoted so that it to help to motivate them and make them to be more productive and also more effective in the discharge of their duties. Thank you.
Now, a corrupt civil service, what does it mean to a nation?
A corrupt civil service is doomed. Is doomed because there's no two way about it. If the civil service is corrupt, end of the story, nothing moves. Nothing moves. Nothing moves. So it should be discouraged in its entirety. So nobody should actually in any way try to encourage a corrupt civil service because one is that it will pull down the economy of the states. Two is that the system will not be productive. Three is that it does not go well in any way, both morally and otherwise. So everything necessary to ensure that we have a corrupt-free civil service should be encouraged, no matter what it costs.
For joining us, also Chidi Ezeme, former head of the civil service in Enugu State. Thanks for being with us, really.
Signature TV, news in your pocket.